Hello everyone, if anyone's watching us, welcome to the Recruitment Technology Showcase Hangout. We'll be discussing the theme, when and how does modern technology help and aid the recruitment process? We're joined by a few technologists and recruiters today. We've got Will Hamilton from LaunchPad Recruits, we've got Mark Stevens, founder of the F10 group. We've got Peter Thompson, head of the IT for the PSD group. We've got Stephen Blackmore, who's head of sales at Daxtra Technologies. Myself, I shouldn't forget, I'm Louis Welcomme. I'm marketing at Colleague Software. We're a CRM provider. We've got Louise from UK Recruiter, and we've got Alan, of course, who will be hosting today from Abtech Partnership. Yeah, nearly forgot you there, Alan, sorry. I will hand over to Louise. Just a brief mention, if you want to contribute, if you want to join the Hangout, come on to Google+, follow one of us here, and you're welcome to join in the discussions. If you want to join in on Twitter, the hashtag is RecNet. You're welcome to comment questions. I'll be keeping an eye on that. I'll hand anything over to everyone else here if I see anything. Louise, just over to you briefly about the Recruitment Showcase event.
Okay, thank you ever so much, Louis, and thanks for setting up this technology needed to do this today. So this is similar to what we did last time ahead of our technology event, an opportunity to talk about some of the technologies and the issues that are going to come up. The technology event's the 26th of September. It's a full day event with conference in the morning and workshop speed demo sessions in the afternoon. You can get the links on the homepage of the ukrecruiter.co.uk website. The links are on there, or message me. I'm going to pop off the video feed now and sort out the bits and bobs behind the scene and hand over to Al, who will be sorting things out today for us, and also on the 26th of September we'll be managing the event for us then as well. So thank you, Alan.
Hi everybody, welcome. We've got a very distinguished panel of technologists, recruiters, and so forth involved here to talk. And thank you, Louis and colleague, for making this actually work, because I think all of us know the technologists still struggle to figure out how to get a Google Hangout to work. So well done, thank you for that. Our theme today is really supposed to be about, how is technology, modern technology, and I think that's an interesting terminology. How does modern technology actually aid the recruitment process and the recruiter? And mostly we've been focusing, particularly with the Louise and the job post event on the 26th, around the third-party recruiter, but I think would also be useful to have some input around how it affects our clients, the in-house recruiter, because certainly a big theme over the last year or two of the in-house recruiter getting to grips better with technology, possibly to the exclusion of using their agency. So I think there might be some themes there. So we might start out then with a question about, someone who has worked on both sides. Mark, you've actually worked on both the recruitment agency and delivering product to the corporate recruiter. What would you say are the biggest challenges for the stakeholders on both sides?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? In the old days, we used to think about business and the objectives of business when looking at technology. Is it going to make me money? Is it going to save me money? Or is it going to improve process? But I think that the objectives of the individual stakeholders, both agency and client side, are slightly different. And funnily enough, we were having this conversation today about the different stakeholders on the client side and what they're looking to gain from advancements in technology. So I think most of us will relate to some of these. Business owners in particular are looking always to find anything that can assist them to improve the quality of applications that are coming through, because the objective is always to recruit the highest caliber of individuals, because that's going to aid the growth of the business. But if you were to speak to procurement and finance, they're driven probably by technology that can save costs. And if you really pin down HR people, the people who are actually managing the recruitment aspects on behalf of the client, they're probably more driven by technology that can save time, take time out of the process, increase the speed to hire. And I think this is important, when recruiters are talking to businesses about how they can add value as recruiters to the the recruitment of staff and the different aspects over and above just providing a short list of CVs. And then from the agency side, I guess that we're just looking for access to the best quality candidates, better management tools, and the things that allow us to create those short lists of candidates that are most suited to the client. You're going to have to come off mute, Alan.
Yeah, got to come off mute. That'll be a big help, won't it? Peter, you're working for one of the very large recruitment companies, and you've been actively involved in taking them from, say, almost no technology to current technologies. Would you agree with Mark said that it's mostly about time savings? Is it about making more money? Peter?
Sorry, Alan, I didn't hear some of that. There was I missed quite a bit of what was being said before. Unfortunately, there was some congestion on the line by the sounds of things.
Okay.
Sorry, what was the question?
So Mark was saying that for the in-house recruiter, it's about time. For the third party, for the agencies, it may be about time. It may be about process savings. It may be about just making more money, among other things. What have you seen at PSD? How's that worked? What's been the driver for you?
I definitely think quality is one of the things that comes out as well. The other thing I think we struggle with, and that I'd like to see the CRMs and the technology helping with, is mapping what's actually happening out in the business world. So we get an understanding of the fluctuations in organization structure, where people are and how they're moving around. It's something we tend to struggle with quite a lot.
Okay. One of the themes that we're talking about is supposed to be about modern technology. Will, you're right in the heart of what most people are now considering modern technology with video and so forth. How do you see that adding value to the actual selection or implementation or utilization of a recruiter CRM?
Right. So we're used in different ways and for different parts of the process. I mean, the way we're a video interviewing platform. You kindly call us a modern piece of technology. The challenge when we speak to recruitment consultancies, the challenge that often we're talking about is how to present candidates in the best way. How do you differentiate from your competitors? Because the challenge that we can be used and are used by in-house recruiters to find the best candidates, but often when we get to recruitment consultancies, it's about presentation of candidates in the knowledge that maybe the same candidate's being presented to the client by multiple people. If you can present the candidate, or if our clients can present candidates using video, they find the differentiator and they more often get the fee.
Okay. And I'm going to say, Stephen, a lot of people probably don't quite understand what parsing technology actually does. Most of the leading CRMs have now either embraced your technology or something similar as part of their offering. What's the value to a recruitment company that starts to either evolve or expand its technology to actually having parsing and extraction technology as part of it?
Well, what we've always tried to do at Daxtra is hopefully try and embody exactly what technology will try and do as a benefit, which is really it's a time saver. It's there to save you time and improve existing manual processes by trying to automate them through intelligent technology and intelligent recruitment solutions. But hopefully it's also there to try and improve you and your ability to perform as an agency. So as you guys have been sort of alluding to, is is technology there to help you save time and hopefully therefore save money by automating the manual process, but is it also there to try and help you make more money? And the idea really being is both. If it can help you find candidates quicker and better, or better quality candidates than your competitive agency down the road, it's hopefully there to, because you're able to present candidates quicker and better and to a much better fit than existing recruitment agencies that may be looking or going after the same vacancy. So Daxtra really is there seen on the parsing side. It's seen as a robotic administrator. It's there to replicate the tasks that administrators have been doing replicate them in terms of accuracy, so we're able to process information with human accuracy, but also far quicker, and hopefully without mistakes. But also we're there to search. We're there to help you find your candidates quicker and faster than everyone else. So hopefully it's really seen as two things. Technology is there to automate existing processes, and is also there to hopefully help you perform better as a business to increase revenue.
Okay, thanks for that. I mean, Louis, as part of it, I'm going to make you actually talk, Louis, instead of just sitting there enjoying yourself.
I'm having fun.
You work for one of the key technology providers in the recruitment agency field.
Yep.
Do you sort of agree with the guys have been saying? What's your sort of view to what, if your sales guys are out there on the street talking to a new potential client, what's the raison d'etre that they bring forward? Why they should go with a CRM? And obviously,
I mean, I think with Colleague and with all the CRM providers at the moment, the main concern for agencies at the moment and in the past has been having a useful, stable database where you can put your data, you can easily search over it. It'll integrate with technologies like Daxtra. It'll integrate with technologies like Broadbean. It will, it has good support. And it allows you to manage the workflow, track your communications. All that's a pretty standard offering. But what I think we're seeing at the moment, and what we were hearing at True London last week, and what people like Pete and Mark are starting to talk about, having talked to them, is CRM starting to move towards analyzing big data and the breakdown between, if this makes sense, between your data in your database and online data, and the CRM becoming almost a management tool for analyzing and giving back useful business intelligence that goes beyond just automation and saving time, that actually gives you candidate and client information, useful candidate and client information automatically. And perhaps I think that's where we'll start to go in the next 2 years in the technology sector.
So I think that's an interesting theme or road, because we're all talking about this as a CRM now, which 2-3 years ago it wasn't. It was just an applicant tracking system. That was kind of our terminology. But we've all tried to believe it's about the customer and relationship and management. So we've kind of co-opted the CRM terminology when we talk about the technology for agencies, whereas for the corporates we're talking about talent management systems or other terminologies such as that. Mark, do you see any disconnect between those two differing descriptions?
Sorry, struggling just to get my mute off there.
Yep.
I actually think that the client technology and the agency technology are merging into one. I can see that clients want access to the same sort of technology, the same data that we have access to. I think that those clients have decided that they are going to take a permanent view of in-house recruitment, want all the tools available to them that recruiters have got. And I think that Louis made a couple of good points that the future of these tools is access to market intelligence, so that we can make more intelligent decisions about how we apply our time in the recruitment process, and also using some of these tools to validate what we're doing, our actions, using the data to prove that our activity and our time and our efforts are being effective.
Okay, I mean, I think that does make sense. Anybody else want to comment on that particular theme?
I'd be quite interested to just sort of pick it up on what the last two conversations have said, in as much as that CRMs are looking to be more than just an ability or a repository to stick candidate details and to manage the actual workflow, and they should really be put together, or at least moving towards some ability to process the information and process what is being done within the company, to establish whether or not there's a particular ROI with the information that's held within the existing database, or whether the means with which you're going externally to find that information and those paid for requirements, whether or not that there is a justification for external spend. And that's one question maybe I'd like to open up to the panel, is that there always has to be almost a comparison between what your internal information is like and how robust it is, and whether or not the justification to then go outside externally and look for further information, whether it be candidate data, whether it be vacancies. There's always going to be a spend associated with having to work outside of your internal database and working outside the realms of the company or your experience. Are you suggesting that the CRMs themselves should be able to process and understand that information, or whether or not this is something that they just need an ability to get some kind of exterior module which can then be plugged in, but then use it, that whatever module that may be is an ability to integrate with the system and see whether or not there's some analytics that could be put in place to understand whether or not the internal and the external spend, or whether there's any correlation between the two, and whether the spend on both sides are justified. Is this something that should be sitting internally within the CRM itself, or is it really just an ability to process and give that information to someone?
Mark, do you want to have a shot at that?
I think a lot of the data is already there in the CRMs. I know it's already there in the CRMs. It's just really creating the tools that allow you to extract it easily. I mean, some simple data that would be really useful. For example, if I was working closely with a client in a true partnership capacity, and we were working on an important recruitment campaign for them, how beneficial would it be if I was able to show them a visual representation of the candidates with the skills that they were looking for, in terms of geographic presence, salary bands, if I could show them the geographic locations of companies that had previously advertised for similar positions with similar skills, and the salary bands that had been advertised. I mean, just simple data like that is easily retrievable. You might want to extend beyond your own database, especially if you were a smaller agency, but there will be opportunities, I'm sure, to extract that information from communal databases. But certainly you should be able to extract that information and quickly and easily from your own CRM.
Yeah, so are we implying that perhaps it's not just about technology, it's also about behavioral modification within the agency sector? Because look, we all know that the agency CRMs have been around for over 20 years, and most of them are nothing more than an electronic version of the old wooden filing cabinet in terms of how people use them. Where what we're saying now is, hey, well, we can actually start using that data effectively. Maybe, though, the behavior modification is not just about accessing the data, but using it to flip our model about how we actually go out and acquire business. Instead of just sitting there and pounding the phone all day long, calling up and going, hey, have you got a rec, have you got a rec, have you got a rec, we can actually target our customers and target the right candidates and market the candidate to the customer. Or am I dreaming?
Absolutely. I mean, that technology already exists. I mean, there are aggregators out there where you can go and get that data to say who's advertising for a specific skill set right now. Companies like InAdvantage. You can pay for a license, you can set up watchdogs, you can have daily reports sent to you, or you can go and acquire data. I mean, here's a really obvious one, in terms of acquiring logical data. If I specialize in a particular vertical, let's say I recruit mechanical engineers in the defense space, why wouldn't I go and buy the data for all the companies that have advertised mechanical roles in the last 3 years, so that I know who my target audience is, and then build that into my strategy? Grab that data, load it into my CRM, and start to use that as my marketing platform for growing my database of clients in my vertical.
I agree with you, Mark. That's where the power lies in combining your internal CRM with what's happening externally. The unfortunate thing is the data you hold in your CRM is quite obsolete by the time you get to use it, and it's constantly trying to keep that updated. is where part of
So
the cost
why
comes
not?
in.
I agree. You're absolutely right. 95% of data is obsolete in people's database. So why not go and partner with somebody like iProfile and have your data updated regularly? And then 50% of your data can immediately be brought back to life again, and your own database becomes more valuable. These are the technologies that are out there that can assist the recruiter to have an advantage over the competitor.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. One of our consultants last week missed out on an opportunity because he couldn't identify one of his LinkedIn contacts as having had any experience or specialization in the sector he was working in. And unfortunately, the data is only as good as the data that you have on that specific platform, whether it's your own CRM or external CRM. The more we can interrogate a wider set of data, the better we will understand and pick up the relevant keywords and things around a candidate or contact if we're doing business development. But having a much wider access and integrating that through the CRM will put us one step ahead yet again, and will hopefully mitigate the risk of losing out on these kind of opportunities.
Sorry, I'm hogging the conversation.
I think in regards to using various intelligence tools and various engagement tools and integrating them in, that's the way to go. The way colleague customers use Daxtra and so forth. We're thinking of integrating. Well, we are integrating with MailChimp. So you've got one of the best email marketing tools there. Not meaning to plug ourselves too much, but the point is, rather than trying to get the CRM to do everything, the CRM becomes a hub for the best tools and a flexible hub that will integrate serve with the necessary tools, but analyzes that information and presents it in one location. I mean, even in my own job as marketing person and listening to you guys, it sounds like recruiters are having to go on several different social channels. They're having to use about 10 different tools to get the data they want. They're having to switch between, 20 different screens. It becomes it's not something that has to happen down the line. So maybe that's something CRMs can help fix. I'm not saying we're there yet. So
I would agree with you, Lewis, on that one. It's from our point of view, the only because we offer a search product that as you know, obviously integrates with the existing CRM system, and it's there to improve the search capabilities using natural language, etc. Within the existing database. But but it's also there to go and search all of your LinkedIn accounts and your Monster accounts, everything. So again, it's going back to the time saver. And the only thing we're really being asked to do now is to embed it within the CRM of choice. No one is interested about having external windows open. And more importantly, everyone wants the activity that consultants are doing to be trackable. So it all needs to be contained within the existing CRM system. If candidates are making notes, they need to be making notes within the CRM. If they're calling candidate, it needs to be within the CRM. And if they're looking at them on LinkedIn or updating various notes through social media or anything like that, it all needs to be contained within the CRM system. The CRM is a recruiter or recruitment owners, agency owners' currency. It's how they make their money. It's what differentiates them from all of the other recruitment agencies out there. So if consultants are not spending the time to update that information, either because it's too hard because they've got to try and work out a way of getting external information internally and tracked onto the database, or whether or not they're just not bothering to do it because they're just working outside in the cloud, then you're not adding any depth or richness or colour to the existing candidate records in the database itself. So they're devaluing the database because all the activity that they're doing is outside in the cloud. The only times we're ever really being asked to integrate, everything has to be embedded within the CRM, so that is the only window that's open. And any activity is logged within the CRM system, and all searches are contained within the CRM system. And that's something that recruitment owners are getting quite passionate about is it's got to be contained within my existing system, and everything needs to be tracked. I need to know what these guys are doing, and more importantly, when they leave, I want them to leave some of the knowledge that they have spent the last 2 years working on within my company. I want them to leave that knowledge here. I don't want them to take it with them onto the next company, or just leave it within the cloud.
Well, no one would start a new agency then. I was just going to say, tying into that, then we'll come back to you. Sorry, Pete. One of our listeners or watchers, depending what they might be, I think ties into this. They want to know, well, if we're going to talk about trying to bring all this data together, social media conversations, or from some of the main channels, how do I bring that into my CRM database? What tool could I use to actually bring that information in? And I think that ties into this sort of theme about, as Stephen talked about, integrating some of that data from the searches, but how do I get that external data, the social media data in? How do I get my LinkedIn conversations to be into my CRM, for example?
Our developers say it's possible. I'm not a technical person.
Yes,
I'm not sure that anyone's got the answer to that, Alan. That's a pretty difficult question.
Yeah.
Should I get John up here?
Yeah. I know. I thought it sounded like it might be a new business stream for Will and Stephen then.
We can load all information from any external information or any updates that you make, either on job boards, within candidates, or anything that you're doing externally. We can load directly into the CRM that we're choosing. And more importantly, those searches are all trackable as well. That's part of our core product offering now within search technology. It's not just searching, it's what you're doing externally that needs to be recorded, and that's something that we're now able to load directly into the CRM, and it's through the embedded interface.
Okay, so Will, your stuff, videos you're doing, they're embedding the results straight into the CRM, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So we've got an open API. We're plugged into various CRMs, People Bank actually, and a range of other CRMs. But yeah, for us, I mean, this conversation is about data. I mean, for us, we capture data, we capture video data about people. But for us, the challenge that we're tackling for our users is how to manage the workflow around the process around this data. That's the real challenge. So actually, there's new products that we've been launching which really just tackle the workflow and how you get the maximum value and how you use video in the selection process. And previously, people actually was all about integration into ATSs or CRMs, but the conversation seems to have switched recently to actually, sometimes tools can be used standalone, and they just need to play nicely alongside other bits of technology.
Well, that ties into one of the questions we've just had on Twitter, which is, okay, we're talking about a lot of multiple texts. For example, I'm sitting here watching two screens at the moment with an iPhone in one hand and a tablet in the other. And if she was on her computer actually using her CRM, she'd be using 3 bits of tech all at once. How do we, as CRM providers, help our customers, our users, get more organized to only having to be using one piece of tech at a time? Mark, want to have a try at that?
Well, until the service providers, like LaunchPad, have created an open API so that they can be integrated into other people's systems, and unless all the service providers create that facility, it really comes down to the recruitment company finding other solutions a way around that. So it might be parsing information into the system, but the solution providers themselves, if they want to create tools that can be integrated into the CRM platform, I'm sure it will be welcomed. I mean, Louis, you're in a better position to answer this than I am.
Yeah, well, most online tools, as my understanding, provide an API. MailChimp certainly has. Sorry, that's the one I'm talking about because I wanted that myself for my own marketing. But yes, I love MailChimp. But a lot of them offer open APIs you can integrate. And you're talking about various screens here. CRMs are going to have to offer responsive interfaces that will work across various devices and integrate with using the APIs of various tools. you can't do everything. You know, a CRM's job sometimes is to work and customize according to you know, each customer's needs, which is possible. So
I think.
Sorry.
So Lou, I absolutely agree. But, I mean, and Mark, I absolutely agree. But if you want everything to work on one platform, you need that platform to be open, and so you need to choose your platform to be one that actually is easy to plug other features and utilities into. And at the moment, most platforms on the market require quite a lot of work by that platform to plug in other pieces of technology. So I think it's really up to the CRMs and the ATSs to start to build in a way that is easy for other utilities to be simply plugged in, and that's from a user perspective. You'll just be able to use whatever utilities you like around this hub that you're buying.
I think you're right, to be honest.
The ability is there. I mean, some of the big ATS systems have the ability to integrate with anything.
Yeah.
But you know, I was recently talking to some of the account managers at Taleo, and I understand that in some cases there's like a 2-year waiting list to have some development work done. You know, to customize to integrate with their system. They're just not interested in the end client.
Well, and this brings me back. Taleo, all of the major ATSs, the HR systems, they've all been part of HR XML for years and years. There is a standard already in place that anybody who uses the HR XML standard in their system, it's plug and play into any other system that follows HR XML. So you don't have to get into the one-to-one development. But I would suggest that probably 98% of salespeople have no idea that HR XML standard exists and that their product actually can easily integrate with a lot of other products. And perhaps that's part of the challenge, certainly on the corporate side. I think on the agencies provider side, much less take-up of HR XML because they think it's just for the big corporates. So there are tools available and ways to integrate this data, but it's still a bit of a nightmare in terms of knowing who knows how to do it. Pete, what about on your side? I mean, you've got a robust technology you've had for a number of years, and your guys come to you and say, hey, I want to integrate, you know, video interviewing, I want to integrate something new. How do you have to deal with it, you know, supporting that from the IT side?
From the IT side, it's very difficult because a lot of the time the CRM providers will tell us you can only use these tools because these are the only ones that we will support and maintain with our product. And for me, that's not an option that I see going forward as useful. I want to be able to pick best-of-breed products across a range of different products and be able to bolt them in to the CRM. And I agree with what Louis and Mark have said as well. I want the CRM to be the presentation tool and the workflow management tool to provide that kind of central experience for the recruiter, so they don't have to go off and go and access a whole different load of applications, platforms, and what have you.
All right, thanks. Now, I'm conscious that we're going to have an audience out there. We hope that, you know, some of them will be as experienced as our panel. Some may just be getting into this lark. So what advice would you have to an agency that's now into the CRM search mode? How should they go about getting started in terms of identifying, finding the right kind of CRM? I mean, Louise has had this question asked on her UK Recruiter forum probably about 40 times a day for the last 10 years. You know, how do I find one? Any suggestions?
There's plenty of information online anyway, so a basic search you'll see feedback from users about each different CRM, and I guess it's a case of having a beauty parade, starting off with some questions over the phone, followed by some presentations, and just build your knowledge on, you know, what it is you're looking for.
Yeah, speak to some people in the same sector on the agency side, and get some referrals and testimonials. And I think some good advice is to know exactly what you want and what you want it to do. So when it comes to implementation, you get that all set up properly. So be very clear, plan, don't rush moving into a CRM. Make sure you have a project team. Yes, sorry, carry on, Mark.
Yeah. I mean, you need to think about things like connectivity. You know, have you got a good pipe feed? So could we consider a cloud-based solution, or is it going to have to be a piece of in-house software? what's the functionality and what do I want it to do? Do I want the flexibility around pay packages? Does it have the flexibility to plug into other systems, like Peter was saying? You know, are they supportive in giving you the option to connect to best-of-breed solutions? And what's going to be the integration time to roll it out? I mean, there's some really varied responses that I've had from talking to different sort of CRM providers in terms of the disruption during the actual implementation process.
I agree with what you guys have said, and the other thing I would add to it is you've got to be prepared for the long haul on this, and be prepared to test the product, to try and get it to a point where you understand really what's happening underneath the skin. We found so many times we've gone through this exercise where don't just rely on a demo or don't just rely on someone's reference. You've got to get the system in place with your data in it and use it as it's used on a daily basis to really get an idea of how it's actually going to work for you and your company.
Yes, most providers will let you do that as well. Test it out with your own data. So.
I mean, Will, you're not the full CRM, but how do people test what you've got as opposed to maybe what somebody else might have? Do you enable them to have a sort of a trial so that they get to grips with what it actually does and how it works for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So, video interviewing, has been around for a while. People are waking up to it, but people want to give it a shot and see how it works. So we made that very easy. We give free trials if people want to do a longer trial. We have very reasonable pricing on that. But for us, the approach is let people try it, get it core to the process, and we'll work with you. We don't require big commitments up front. I think that's how people want to buy. We're trying to listen to our customers, and that's how people want to buy, and we're very comfortable with that process.
Stephen, how do you see it? Because a lot of the work that you do is actually your products are embedded with the ATSs or CRMs, but you do have some of your stuff you sell direct. How do you see customers wanting to compare what you do with what maybe another vendor would provide?
I mean, it's one of the advantages, or indeed disadvantages, of Daxtra, depending on which way you look at it, is that the functionality is the same with virtually any CRM that we work with. So Daxtra's core technology and sort of core features and functionality is exactly the same whether you're using it in the likes of Colleague or Bond or Bullhorn or Itris. So it's what we do is always the same. The back-end integration may be slightly different because everything is put together in a slightly different way, but we would always deliver the same functionality with whoever it is that we're working with. We get asked all the time, we're looking at changing provider, who would you recommend? And we really are so indifferent because it makes no difference from our point of view what it is that people are trying to do. All I would say is picking up perhaps on what a few of your other guys are saying is, what is it? What do you want from it as an actual core? And the setup as an example. Are you looking to grow? Do you want something that's going to be a SaaS solution or server side? What level of function, what level of customizations are you looking to do? Are you looking for it to be able to offer more than just a candidate depository? Are you looking to try and integrate payroll with it and offer us far more open features or requirements from it? But from our point of view, Daxtra working with Bond is the same as Daxtra working with Colleague or Voyager. It always does exactly the same thing, and we want to try and make it look as un-Daxtra-like as possible. All it's doing is it's a database improvement exercise.
Mark, you said something that worried me. Right. Am I going to have to? I know it's a good thing I got worried about something. Am I going to have it in-house on my own server, or am I going to use a cloud-based solution? Are we really having that conversation that people don't realize they should just go to the cloud and not bother putting a bunch of kit in their basement?
Yeah, well, we have to have an in-house software solution here because our network connectivity isn't strong enough to support a cloud-based solution. So it is. That's why I said that.
We find a lot of our larger customers still want to have their data on site and have a server, but small to medium companies and startups should definitely be looking at the cloud.
I'd be very happy to have all my data out in the cloud, to be honest.
Do you still have to have it in-house at the moment?
Yep.
And is that just because of your current technology platform, or is there a management role in this which says, I don't trust it to be anywhere but in my basement?
No, management are quite open to the idea of getting the data out. I think they see it as a cost-saving exercise, and they see it as enabling the ability to get access anywhere, really.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I mean, let me see. I think I did my first ASP paper in 1999. So, which has evolved to become what we call the cloud today. The advantage, I think, is very clear. Except, Mark, you've pointed out one little challenge. I certainly couldn't count on a cloud solution where I live because there are days my internet just doesn't work at all. Mm-hmm. So it does kind of mitigate against doing it that way, doesn't it?
Well, we're not at any disadvantage because we've got remote access, and that works quite efficiently for us. It's slightly slower because you're coming through a remote server, but it doesn't stop us from being able to work remotely.
But ultimately, it's going to limit the tools you have available to you. Most new technologies are now being built on a cloud-hosted platform. So if you want the latest tools, you're going to need the connectivity and the ability to connect and get access to them.
So what about, I had this issue come up a few months ago when I did a social media workshop for a recruitment agency, and the owner, operator, MD, had just gone out and spent 10 grand on a brand new server because he didn't trust that data in the cloud was actually safe and secure. And I think for many of our listeners and watchers who are first exploring this option, that may be a big concern. How do you address that?
I think cloud data is more secure and probably safer than your in-house data. They have to be certified, and they go through many checks and the whole process to secure the locations and all the rest of it is far more severe than you'd manage with your in-house team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would hope that those sort of conversations that you bring up, Alan, are becoming less and less. I mean, I find it now quite surprising that people are going to refer to the cloud and ask whether or not it's secure just because you don't have the data within your four walls. That's got to be, I think, probably one of the biggest shifts is that those conversations are hopefully now becoming less and less. You can't see these data centers as having been less secure places than somewhere where you might just have some slightly dodgy third-party firewall, and you think that's a secure place to keep your data.
Well, Louis, how are you seeing that? Do you think people are really questioning the security of the data, or is it just a mindset that we've always done it this way?
I mean, I agree with everyone else, to be honest. The fact is that cloud or the people that look after data on the cloud providers are specialists at protecting data and security, and they can store it far more securely than probably a company or a business would be able to. So I'd have to, I'd agree with Stephen and Pete. I don't think there's much more to add to it, really. Yes.
Not really. Secure. You bank online.
Yeah.
You can bank online securely. Then I'm sure that we can store data and access data securely.
Isn't the more relevant question around data is how you actually want to retrieve it if you want to move product? That's the question I'd be asking.
Yeah, there's usually a clause in the contract that says the data belongs to you and that they have to provide it to you. Sometimes at a minimal cost, but
it's still your data. LinkedIn has got a CRM. Is that still your data? Storing data in LinkedIn. I've just activated their contacts section, which you can now opt in to do if you Google LinkedIn contacts. They've got a whole new section where you can store history notes and organise your contacts, and think they're encouraging recruiters to use that as a database. So I wonder who owns that data, whether that's LinkedIn or not. But
so there's two parts to that question. I would say it's still your data. To me, and I love LinkedIn. I mean, I was one of the first 200,000 members, so I've been at it a long time. But to me, the worry is that as an organization, it continues to make changes to its platform with zero discussion with its customers. And this new contacts piece, so that sounds fine, but they also at the same time took away folders, made them become tags, did all sorts of crazy stuff. And the data access that I have with my premium account that I pay $100 a month for has gotten less functionality than it had before. So my worry, if I was putting tons of data into LinkedIn, would be not so much as it my data, it's what am I going to be able to do with it if LinkedIn makes another change to its platform? And can I base my business on what I would consider to be an unstable approach to my data? There's me sticking a knife in my back for LinkedIn now. Anybody else have a thought on that? Because I think for a lot of recruiters today, they think LinkedIn is just their go-to place. And what do they need a CRM for, right?
If every recruiter's on LinkedIn, then none of them have an advantage if they're not looking elsewhere at all. Mm-hmm. But that's another subject.
If our recruiters were storing information on LinkedIn as opposed to our CRM, I don't think we'd be very happy about that. I'd be quite happy to make that a policy in our business that data should be stored in our own CRM and not on your own private records on LinkedIn. Mm. This has got to be a two-way thing here. We give the recruiters the trust to go out there and use the social media channels to do their job, but they've got to look after the company as well. At the end of the day, we're paying for this time that they're spending to build up these databases of knowledge and information and contacts.
Well, CRM should be down the line, hopefully tracking these social media communications and tracking those histories as well, Mark. If LinkedIn lets us.
Absolutely, and I think that's kind of picking up on what I was saying is that recruitment owners need to be protecting their database and making sure that it's that all activity goes in there, and that recruiters aren't working outside of it and just working externally within the cloud, because as you say, it's what value does it give one recruiter from another if everyone's using exactly the same tools? And more importantly, you as a recruitment owner are not benefiting from their activity, their actions, and ultimately what you're paying them time and money for, because they're not adding to your skills and expertise and adding color and depth and texture to your database, because they're not updating their work that you're paying them valuable money for.
Unfortunately, I don't think a lot of businesses see it that way, and they just see the bottom line as the end result. And as long as the consultant's making money, do they really care if data's going in the CRM? And it then becomes a multi-channel solution to access data. I agree with what you're saying, Alan. We shouldn't have all our eggs in one basket, and LinkedIn. I'd like to believe that we have different contact mechanisms across a lot of different platforms. It's not just linked in our own database. We use other different platforms as well as obviously having an email address and all the rest of it. But it's definitely a worry, and it's a risk for any recruitment agency now. Is how these platforms are changing, and they're changing dramatically in short periods of time. And there's a cost to keeping up to date with that change. Just in the training and. Sorry,
Peter.
Carry on.
Sorry, Peter. I mean, if LinkedIn would allow businesses to connect with their employees inside the LinkedIn system, so that when individuals were making notes against the records that they were contacting, the people they were contacting, so that they were duplicated inside the company record as well. So the company was gathering the data that was being generated by the employee within LinkedIn. This wouldn't be difficult to do. so that the company was always retaining that information as well alongside the individual. Then if the individual does decide to leave and goes off and takes that with them, at least the company's left with everything that was recorded and done as part of the role that they played while working for that company. By virtue of the fact that we actually record who we're currently employed by, LinkedIn knows who the employer is. And it would be then the responsibility could be down to the individual to say, well, I've now left that company and moved on, if they no longer wanted the data that was being recorded to be retained by their employer. And this would keep more up-to-date records on LinkedIn as well. Just a thought. Then perhaps an API or some sort of format, some sort of tool that allowed you to download that data into your CRM as well, and they could start to work in partnership with recruitment companies.
We can do that at the moment. Part of Daxtra's embedded functionality is that any notes that they are making manually against their existing records, whether it be LinkedIn or whether it be within the Monster accounts, are automatically replicated and updated within the candidate record and the CRM itself. It's not something that we need to wait for. We can do that now, and more importantly, we don't have to wait for LinkedIn to try and release some kind of API, which we know would probably take forever.
And would a user that wanted to engage with Daxtra, would they have to utilise the full suite of Daxtra services to enable that to happen, or is that a standalone product or service that somebody could take advantage of?
It's dependent on a case-by-case basis. I mean, in a lot of instances, we need to process and parse the CV in order to ultimately understand what it says because of the language involved in it. But the API, the search APIs that I'm alluding to are available as a standalone product. The way that you want to use them does depend on a number of things, but the technology is there and it can be discussed.
And is this exclusive to Daxtra?
Yes, at the moment it is.
So
But if you look,
sorry, so are you talking about accessing notes on LinkedIn, or are you talking about accessing notes that the recruiter is making around a CV?
Sorry, you broke up slightly there. Can you repeat again?
Sorry, is this accessing notes and information, more information from LinkedIn? Or is this around the CV processing?
No, it's because CV processing is something separate. It's not something that we can do retrospectively. So if Daxtra is integrated with a CRM and a consultant's account, as an example, we can't retrospectively download the information or the activity that they've been doing before Daxtra started. But the idea being is that the consultant logs in with their LinkedIn details, so therefore we are mirroring the activity that they are conducting on LinkedIn as if they were going there directly, but that is being recorded directly against the candidate record within your existing CRM.
Oh, right, okay, I see.
And
no problems with link. Sorry, Mark.
Just trying to quantify exactly what information it's pulling through.
Mm-hmm.
Is it written data? So I'm putting notes against a particular. Is it copying the communications that are taking place, or the actions? You know, where is it being stored in the CRM?
Well, within the candidate record, the actual details it will depend on the specific CRM and the areas which will have this activity recorded. However, it's the manual notes. It's anything that they are able to manually update within that area within LinkedIn is something that we would look to replicate within the CRM system within Daxtra, within.
okay, I think we're getting fairly technical now, guys, which we might want to just bring it back to some of our listeners and watchers who may not be quite as sophisticated as all of this. Maybe just a little whip around from everybody as a sort of a final thought. So Louis, I'm not quite sure. What time are we scheduled to finish?
Sorry, at 5. So
okay.
Yeah, we're whenever we like. But
all right, but why don't we just do a quick whip around with final thoughts from each one of you on. I think maybe the final question is, what should a recruiter expect from his CRM today? Well, I'm going to start at the right of my screen. Will, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, so I guess from I think I'd just go back to the point I made before. If you want to plug in the best of breed for a range of tools, which you may not know, you won't even know what they are at the beginning. But as you progress, you'll realize there's a load of tools that you want to use. From a CRM, make sure that it's open and they behave in a way that allows you to plug in the tools that you choose, that you want, and they're easy to plug in. And check how much it's going to cost you to plug those in going down the line.
Okay, thanks, Will. Stephen?
I'm probably actually not best placed to make a comment on this, but I would mirror what you guys are saying. You've got to understand what it is that you're ultimately trying to achieve. What kind of business are you? What kind of business are you wanting to turn into? Exactly how aggressive are your growth strategies, and what do you want the system to do as you grow? But more importantly, what can you afford to do to begin with? Are you a startup? Do you have to go on a modular SaaS type solution, or are you going to be looking at something that is more capex is required up front? There are 10, 12, 13 different solutions out there, and each one of them will have a different USP that may ultimately push you into buying, and you really need to understand what it is out of their different offering that's going to attract you.
Okay, appreciate that. Peter?
I agree. There's so many different technologies out there. You really do need to get an understanding of what's available in the marketplace before you start identifying what you want from the CRM, I think. But if you're looking at the CRM specifically, then yeah, open API, SaaS, it's got to be on the cloud, and make sure you're talking to lots of different references before you get kicked off with your project.
Okay, Mark, your thoughts?
I would definitely look to, if you've already got a CRM, talk to the CRM provider and make sure that you're fully utilising all its services that it has to offer. Interrogate them around the best of breed services that are out there. If you want to use LaunchPad as a video interviewing tool, go and talk to your CRM and make sure that they integrate with it, because a lot of these third-party solution providers which aid the recruitment process can really help you to differentiate yourself from the other recruiters that are out there. Investment in technology isn't just about thinking about how you can help yourself as the recruiter to work more efficiently and find candidates. It should be also to help the client and to take away the pains that they have, and that can be ultimately, deliver the same results that you're actually trying to achieve.
Okay, Louis, what about from a vendor perspective? What should they be thinking about, and what should they be expecting for you to deliver?
Yeah, I'll just re-emphasize my point. Just ask who they integrate, how adaptable they're willing to be in integrating with third-party products. Make sure it's a stable system that does the nuts and bolts of recruitment well, the workflow well, the storage of data well. Make sure it's customizable. You can have your own fields. Inquire about support. Make sure there's effective support, effective training, a good implementation process. Make sure the CV parsing technology and the searching technology is decent. I think that's what recruiters should expect at the moment. In the next few years, you'll really want to start pushing us CRMs to get some big data reports and intelligence and graphical dashboards out there. Make sure we're helping you to engage with clients and candidates properly, providing leads and sourcing technology and tools. Yeah, sorry, that's a big chunk. So.
Sorry. Mark, you wanted to add something?
Can I just make one final point here? If you want to get the best out of your CRM, appoint an ambassador within your own company, pay them a little bit extra, give them an incentive to learn all the tools and all the functionality that the CRM provides, and get them to run workshops and and train and coach other people, because it can make such a massive difference to the effectiveness of your recruitment team.
Pay them extra. Wow.
Why not? Why not give them an extra £100 a month, a couple of £100 a month, and and make them the ambassador for it. Make sure that they learn everything there, because what you pay them extra, you'll get 10 times over back if you can save time in the process and make your recruiters more efficient.
Yeah, I agree, Mark. That's a good point.
It might not be paying them cash, but find some way of incentivizing them.
Well, you'll certainly pay them less than you would pay the vendor for a refresh series, wouldn't you?
Alan, I've got one more point as well. Yep. One thing I would say is don't expect the technology to fix any broken processes or ridiculous workflows that you have in place. You've got to get all that stuff right behind the scenes first before you can implement good technology.
Absolutely right. So that same point I was going to make, Pete, because if you've got a bad process and we automate it, you just now got a faster bad process, and you've just moved your problem somewhere else. So not really a big help for us. Well, I want to thank the panel for your terrific insights and sharing knowledge not only of your own solutions, but also of what you've seen out there in the industry. Louis, obviously, for being Mr. Technology behind the scenes to make this thing work, and Louise for bailing out on us, but she was doing a lot in the back end, pulling together some other questions. Yep. What I'd also like to point out is that the reason we did this today is not just because we love to see ourselves on screen, but we're supporting the Recruitment Technology and Leadership event. That's a joint conference being brought to us by UK Recruiter and the guys at the Job Post, JP and Mark, who weren't able to join us today. It's on the 26th of September. There's still some tickets left. If you go to TechRec September 26, all one word, .eventbrite.co.uk, and I'm sure Louise got the links up on the sites as well, as does Louise on UK Recruiter. Mark has it on F10. I've got it up. So lots of places for you to find it. So a morning event for with lots of good speakers, some of whom have been on the call today. And then the afternoon, there's a specific sort of workshop-oriented event which is aimed specifically at owner-operators and MDs. So don't forget that's why we're really here today. And you can get a hold of any of us, and we're all pretty much available on all the social channels, so you should be able to find us. So just a sort of final thank you, everybody, for participating. I think it's been a good chat. And
Thanks
looking forward to seeing now what the numbers were.
Thanks for your time, guys. All the best.
Thank you.
All right.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.